This week in South Baltimore.
Sobo, hun.
Brought to you by SouthBmore.com.
Baltimore, it's the city I adore. Being Baltimore rich to being Baltimore poor. It's a city always searching, never finding a cure. But baby, nothing can replace my Baltimore.
So welcome back to the podcast. This week in South Baltimore, we got an awesome guest today, Chris Franzoni, who is the editor-in-chief of Eat More Baltimore. I know a lot of you guys out there already know who he is, but by the end of this episode, you're definitely gonna want to check him out and follow him on Instagram. We're gonna talk about all kinds of awesome restaurants, food, things around Baltimore, and of course South Baltimore specifically. We're gonna get into that. Chris, this is I was telling Kevin earlier, this was a bad day to skip breakfast. I know that we're going to get in some cool conversations, and I totally skipped. So I had to run upstairs and just eat a couple things real quick, just something to get in. Otherwise, I'm gonna be dying here. But anyway,
probably gonna be hungry afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for being here, and I'm gonna turn it over to the founder, chief, president, CEO, executive of SouthBmore.com. Here's Kevin Lynch. What's up, Kev?
Thanks for that very bold intro, Nate. All right, I'm excited to be joined by Chris. He's not only the editor-in-chief of Eat More Baltimore, but he's also a Federal Hill resident. So, Chris, thanks for joining us today.
Great, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. So just getting started, how did you start Eat More Baltimore?
So I started about 6 years ago. I had a friend doing it in Nashville. Check her out if you ever visit Nashville, or just check her out. Her name's Nashville Food Fan. She started it, I guess, probably 7 years ago. And she said, nobody's really doing this in Baltimore. I mean, she has the same account, but just for that city. So she told me what she was doing. She showed me how to do it. And she said, just started in Baltimore. So I started doing it, sharing pictures. I was already going out to eat a lot and taking pictures. So I thought, instead of doing this on my personal account, it's probably a good idea. I'll just start my own doing it just on food. And also that way my friends don't get irritated with me just posting pictures of food on my personal one all day long.
And awesome. I know you surpassed 100,000 followers recently. So tell me about the excitement to reaching that milestone.
It was very exciting. I'm really happy about that. I mean, I had that on as a goal for a long time now and, slowly creeping up there. But yeah, for some reason I had 100K in my mind as something that I needed to hit now. And now I did it. And I'm really excited about it. I'm just wondering, what do I do next?
Sure. Yeah, there's always that question. I'm at my goal. Now what?
So just curious, what do you think would be the next step? Or could you have any recommendations of what can we all do and what can our audience do to help you get there?
Yeah, well, I'm obviously still doing the Instagram, but I started TikTok. I just call it the TikTok because I'm old now. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's funny, as you grow, Instagram obviously has an algorithm. So they change the way they're showing you to people and who they're showing you to. So, one way to support me, and I think one way to support other, local bloggers, Instagrammers or whatever, is just if you see a picture and you like it, comment on it, share it, and just get it around, because it's an easy and a free way to help us. And it also helps the businesses that we're trying to support. I think, one of the reasons that I did start this was that I lived outside of Baltimore for several years. I lived in New York for a little bit. I lived in DC a little bit. And every time I would say, people would ask, where are you from? And I'd always say Baltimore. And the immediate response was always oh, why, or who? And literally people would give that visceral reaction. And it was really upsetting and annoying, because the rap that Baltimore gets is much worse than
it is, right?
It is living here. It's a great city. So I started to shed a positive light on Baltimore. And at this point, I do it just to highlight the local restaurants and to shed that positive light on the town that, doesn't always have such a positive reputation. So, doing that, liking, sharing, commenting helps me, but more so it also helps the restaurants, because the more you like and do that, the more engagement you get, the more it shows you to other people.
That's awesome. And as somebody who has a business that's on all the social medias, if I could figure out big tech's algorithms, I'd be a much richer man at this point. But it's a constantly moving in different directions that I can't always figure out. But obviously, with anything, the more, as you said, the more likes, the more interactions, the more it tends to show up in people's feeds. So any tips you can give for fellow Instagrammers out there? What are the type of angles? What's some of the lighting that people like to see in their posts?
I think the first thing is to really just be authentic with whatever you're doing. Don't try to act or be something that you're not. And just, if you like something, if you want to share something, just do it. And once you nail down, what your style is or what you like, stick with it and be consistent. I mean, for me, I like really bright pictures, natural lighting. So when I go into a restaurant, if I can, probably really annoys the person who's about to seat me, but, I like to sit next to a window. So you get the natural indirect lighting. Mm-hmm. My pictures are all super close up. So, it's really in your face. So bright colors, light backgrounds, and just, makes you want to lick your phone kind of type photos. But once you figure out what you want to do, just do it, stick with it, stay consistent, post regularly, and you'll get there.
It's a hashtag lick your phone. I like that. That's a keeper.
I think we all want to lick our screens right now, examining your page right now.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too, and it's amazing. And you bring up a good point because I believe I was reading it on one of your blog posts that you talked about restaurants that, even like steakhouses and so forth. The restaurants will put the names of their business on the bottom of the plate, and also even like say a steak, they'll brand their name in a steak because it's like, well, just in case somebody takes a picture of it and they don't tag us, at least it's there.
Plating has always been a thing, but now I think for restaurants it's more important than ever because you never know who's going to come in there and take a picture of it. And unfortunately, I think that like a bad picture of food can go viral just as much as like a really cool one, or even more so. But I think it's something that chefs are definitely considering a lot more now. And then the ones that I talk to and work with are like when they're talking to their chefs and the staff who are looking at the plates that are coming out, they have to look at it and say, does this look good? People are going to be taking pictures of it. I mean, there's a guarantee that throughout the evening, there's several people who are going to be taking pictures and posting it. So you really have to nail it and stay consistent because each dish could be seen by hundreds, thousands. I mean, you don't know.
Right.
Speaking of that, did you guys see that thing? I think it was about a year ago. Some girl in Federal Hill posted a picture of her roommate's boyfriend or something, putting chicken in the oven. And it was just on like a metal pan with like no oil, no seasoning. And it was just like the most depressing photo ever. And it was like trending on Twitter, maybe other social media too. But it was like,
I missed that.
I guess it was like the worst chicken picture ever taken. And it went viral. And the guy behind it, I assume he found out about it. But another thing too, every time I make tacos, I cannot take a good picture of them. They just look like slop every time I try to take a picture of any tacos I make. So any recommendation on how to make a picture of tacos look good?
I don't know. I mean, tacos are tough too because of what goes on top.
Yeah.
And one thing that actually drives me a little bit crazy at restaurants right now, I mean, and it's probably only drives me crazy, are the grains on top. Like microgreens on top of everything. It messes up my focus. You can't see what the food that's underneath. And I know it's supposed to be pretty and decorative, but it messes up with like the food porn aspect.
Right.
So I feel like anytime you have something like that on top of it, like if you stick with cheese on top of your tacos, like you're gonna be pretty safe. Do lettuce, it's probably not so good.
Yeah, from talking to some taco proprietors that are actually from Mexico, they'll tell us that all these toppings are really an American thing. I guess in Mexico it's really just the cilantro and the onions and maybe a squeeze of lime. So if you go into Taco Love, they'll ask you if you want it American style or I guess traditional style. But,
right. Well, that sounds like pizza as well, right? I mean, in Italy, I've been there and I know pizza's really pretty, almost like a flatbread over there. I mean, it's really basic, really just got cheese. Maybe you get a little bit of meat at some point or a little bit of vegetable, but it's really just flat cheese, right? More like a bar pie.
Yeah.
Right. Not like the supreme crazy
Hawaiian,
meat lovers.
Let's put everything we own. Let's put the whole kitchen sink on it. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a TikTok that I started following. It was it's a girl and her Italian boyfriend, and she just does all these like ridiculous things to offend him.
Yeah.
Like the way she like cooks pasta and she breaks it first before she puts it in the boiling water. She like starts eating before everyone has their food at the table, and it's just her boyfriend yelling at her the entire time about all the things that she's doing wrong.
Yeah, I just found that account probably in the last week, but yeah, I still try to watch it closely to see if any of it's staged at all. But yeah, I saw she brought home a cauliflower crust frozen pizza, and he just
that was recent, right?
He flipped out. And I would say if you have any sort of like gluten or vegan diet, going to Italy must be miserable because it's literally just carbs and pork there.
That's it. That's it. All day long.
Yeah. Awesome. So 2-part question. A, how often do you go out to eat? And B, is anybody helping you eat all this food?
Pretty often. I think before the pandemic, I was going out like a whole lot, like probably, definitely 6-ish times a week, 5 to 7 times a week. Obviously the pandemic hit, so that made it a little harder. I still ordered out a lot and tried to go out where there were places to eat outside, but definitely started cooking at home a lot more. Now things are starting to pick up a little bit more, or a lot more, which is great. So I'm going out a lot more, but I do have someone to help me. My partner Stan typically goes with me, so we'll eat at least the other half.
Good for him. He gets to come out and go on this journey with you with all these good plates.
He just has to wait for me to take the pictures.
Right.
I'm hungry, Chris. Come on, man.
We never eat hot food, which is
that's funny. Yeah,
sad. But
I was gonna say, how do you resist? It comes, it's plated, you sit it down, it's hot, you smell it, it's like, oh my god, now I got to get like 14 pictures. That would be tough for me. I'd have to just start eating right away. When you go to these places around town, do you find some places know you better than others? Do you kind of go in incognito, or are you invited in, or is it a little bit of a mix there?
A little bit of a mix. I mean, a lot of restaurants I have relationships with now, so they know. They know me when I walk in. I never really announce that I'm coming because I think that's a little bit obnoxious. I would say that I probably actually pay for 90 of my meals because I just thought in the past year and a half, it's not fair for me to go and ask. Like I didn't really ask local businesses beforehand for free stuff. And especially now, I'm not going to go in and do this and do that. If they invite me in, it's a little bit of a different story. But yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, a lot of the places that I'm going in know me at this point because I've been doing it for 60 years.
Right,
so
right.
I've just built the relationships.
Right.
Do you ever see like the little like kind of secret telling going on? Hey, I think it's that guy. You ever catch any of that going on, or do they just kind of come out and say, "Hey, you're that guy. Let's have some good food."
I mean, sometimes I feel like if someone like looks at me a little bit longer, I'm like, what's happening there? But people generally will just like come up and ask if they recognize me. At first, I never put myself on my page. Like I kept myself off it a lot. And then I thought, you know, why not? I don't know if people want to see me more. They probably just want to see the food. One told I got a message the other day that just said, just post food, weirdo. I did like a few like videos. I'm like, okay, you know, there is an unfollow button on my page. I try to be positive all the time.
Yeah.
Very rarely will I do something that's negative unless it's like something that was really done wrong. Like if it's just a bad meal or, you know, something went wrong that's like out of the restaurant's control. Like I'm not going to go on there and blast them. Like that's not the point of it. The point of it is like I said before, like just, you know, shed a positive light on all these restaurants and just highlight them. And even if people post negative stuff in the comments, I generally just leave it there as well. If it's really bad, then I'll go and delete it and block them. But
yeah, one of the things I love about social media, there's kind of self-policing going on. If somebody puts something really ridiculous on there, you can kind of rely on your followers to maybe put that person in line or maybe not. Yeah. Maybe they're right sometimes. But
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking at your page right now and getting very hungry, and hopefully I don't lick the screen here. So tell us about some plates you've had recently that have just really stood out.
I had 3 really good meals recently. I just went and tried the new fall menu at Black Swan. It was like really tasty. They had, what did they have? They had fried lobster mac and cheese. They had a really good short rib steamed buns. They had a Chilean sea bass, and they just switched up the menu. I think like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. New place that just opened, which Baltimore doesn't actually have a lot of. It's called the Heritage Smokehouse. And it's a chef he was at Woodbury and then at Parts and Labor. And he was basically in control of their like butcher shop and all of the meats. And he just started his own smokehouse, smoking everything in house. He has these 2 1,000-gallon propane tanks that he repurposed. He said that he got them down in Georgia. So he drove down to Georgia, got these like 2 huge tanks, and he smokes everything there. He really, really knows his stuff. And, you know, we had brisket there, pulled pork, chicken, all the sides. Everything was like really, really good. And I think it'll do well there. I think he just needs to get the word out a little bit, but it's only been open for 2 months. So, you know, these things take time. Oh. The other one was Duck Duck Goose. If you look at my page, you'll see
nice,
that.
Nice.
Awesome.
And Chris, being a fellow resident here in South Baltimore, and being that is the main focus of our podcast here, just curious, what do you think we're missing here in South Baltimore? Is there anything you think we're missing? You know, we tend to see some different trends every couple of years. Kevin and I on the podcast here have even joked before where, you know, all of a sudden we had no ice cream places. Now we have 5. We didn't have any poke places. Now there's a bunch. It just seems to go in this trend. Is there anything we're missing here, or anything you think you'd like to see or would advise?
I think we're missing in South Baltimore, like more fine dining places. There's not a really like elevated dining experience. Right. I mean, there are a lot of great places, but nothing I think the closest thing that we would have had was Rice Street Tavern, probably. Yeah. I think we're going to get one in No Way Rosé, which is the same Duck Duck Goose. It's opening over here. I think he always nails it. And I think it's going to be a more elevated experience. That's going to be cooler and something that like South Baltimore hasn't seen. There are a lot of places you can go to get bar food and even like elevated bar food, but we're also missing that like middle ground. Like if I want really good comfort food, that's just slightly above what you might get at a bar in an atmosphere that's not where I'm not sitting at the bar, we're kind of lacking that. Yeah. And I think we had that with like, maybe like Reggie's was close to that, but more of that type of place where you can feel comfortable, but you're not. I mean, that's probably just me getting old talking as well, where I'm like, get these kids out. Right. I want to sit down.
I want my Sunday supper. Music. Where's my... No.
Right, exactly.
No, you're right. That is actually spot on. I think about like when I grew up kind of in the, you know, the burbs and like, yeah, you know, you always had just restaurants and, you know, it wasn't necessarily a bar. Right. But you bring up a good point there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see Cross Street seems to be diversifying itself a little bit right now, where it's always good. You know, you get that young professional party crowd. That's good. That keeps those places in business. It kind of puts Federal Hill on the map. But it's good to see you got the ice cream shops now, as we talked about. You know, you got No Way Rosé coming in. You have elevated menu at the new Stalking Horse called Cross Street Public House. You have Watershed in there. So it is good to see that it's getting more options for families. It's getting more options for tourists, good options for people like Chris who want to have a more quiet meal at different levels. So yeah, it's exciting to see kind of a diversity of styles of eating now at the Cross Street area. And it's always going to have that late night crowd, but it is good to see. And obviously, we're all very excited to see what Ashish Alfred comes up with at No Way Rosé. That should definitely be on another level than what we currently have. So it's good to see what's going on down there.
Even right before the pandemic, South Baltimore, the restaurant scene was kind of dipping a little bit because, places were closing and businesses were leaving. And now, I guess in the last 6 months, you have Watershed, No Way Rosé is going to be there, Cross Street Public House, NOLA, The Palm, and then the local oyster is going to be opening up closer down to. I'm really excited about that one too. I think that's going to be great because they do a great job.
Yeah, there was that short period of time where in like just a few months we lost Wine Market, we lost Bluegrass, we lost
Metropolitan, Reggie's. Well, that was a little bit later probably. But.
But yeah, there was a period. There was like 4 or 5 like once like higher end restaurants. It was like Soba Cafe was really the only one left at one point. Oh, the other one was Live to Eat was there too. So it was really a period where we kind of got cleared out of higher end dining places. But it's good to see that there's really almost no vacant restaurant spaces in South Baltimore at this point. There's the former World of Beer at McHenry Row. It'd be nice to see something, in my opinion, if somebody were to do a finer dining establishment, at least you have the parking and easy access. And
McHenry Row seems to have a hard time keeping restaurants for some reason, even though they have all the people living there and all the parking. And everyone also goes there for grocery shopping. So people are going there.
Yeah.
So Chris, I have to ask you here, kind of keeping with, things that have happened during the pandemic. We all learned a lot of lessons in life in all different ways, but specifically with the restaurant business. One thing my wife and I learned early on and really shocked me. I mean, at first I thought these third-party apps, like your Uber Eats and Toast and Grubhubs and et cetera were all there to help out restaurants and, be a good guy for them. And then you learn that these guys are really overcharging them in fees and making it kind of difficult. And a lot of times restaurants are losing money. But as a lawyer yourself and as someone who, is very close to the restaurant business around here, what's your take on that? And do you think that's gotten better? And do you think there might be any changes to their policies and procedures moving forward? All I want to say is that I just know, and I encourage our listeners and audience to always, call the restaurant directly if you can and get it ordered that way, as opposed to going through those apps. Sometimes you can't avoid it. Yeah, I'm just curious to get your take on that.
During the pandemic, these businesses, which were already, raking in tons of money, a third off the top, maybe from the restaurants, the service fees or whatever, whatever it was for each one was probably a little bit different. I think they had a real opportunity to help the restaurants, and instead they took advantage of them and everyone staying at home. Restaurants already have such a small margin to begin with. They have so many overhead costs with the staff and the food and the supplies, and, they were pivoting constantly with the Grubhubs, the Uber Eats, the DoorDashes. They all saw it as an opportunity to make more money, and they did it. So, at this point, I tried to use them as little as possible. Go to the restaurant, pick it up. It's a little bit more convenient, but you're really helping to support local when you're doing that. And I think it makes a big difference because that 30%, 20%, whatever it might be at that point is going directly back to the restaurant and not to a business that you don't know. And I think probably posted about that over the past year and a half, because I know that Ashish was very vocal about that as well with all the apps and supporting local. And you get a little bit of pushback from probably like a vocal minority of people saying that, like, well, all these apps, they pay the drivers and they do all this stuff and they support local because people are working for them. I'm like, well, if you don't have the restaurants, if the restaurants can't survive, then you don't have drivers who are delivering them. That's the pecking order of how it goes. So that's fine. If you want to have these businesses around, these corporations that aren't really giving back to the community at all, other than the convenience. And half the time they mess it up anyway. And then you can't talk to them. They're like, oh, call the restaurant. They messed that up, or, that's their fault, not ours. It's just it's an ineffective system that's constantly messing up, that's screwing over local businesses and just not helping anyone, except for a convenience. A small convenience when you can actually just walk. I get it, because anything that's helping people or making your life easier can help. But, we're getting further and further away from supporting local. And I think, maybe the pendulum is going to swing back at some point. I hope that it does, but I think that's going to be a real issue down the road.
Everybody in South Baltimore lives within 2 blocks of a restaurant.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Easier said than done, but I've kind of always been of the opinion when you do those apps, when you add in the fees and the tip, you might as well just go out. You could probably go out and have a drink for the same price. So
absolutely. Yeah. If you actually look at it at the end of what it is, like how much extra you're paying to have it delivered, it's at least over $10, 15, 20. I mean, depending on how much you ordered and what you're tipping. Like
one of my favorite things is when I walk the dog in the morning down my street, and I'll see all these like Pizza Bowlies or McDonald's or something on the doorstep after like a Saturday night. And I'm like, some people did some late night ordering and they just, probably fell asleep and woke up the next morning to a cold cheeseburger that they probably paid $30 for.
Exactly.
I see that a lot in the neighborhood.
I did that once when I was out of town. I think I was in Charleston, and I ordered DoorDash, and I didn't change the address of my DoorDash. So I had the entire order delivered to my doorstep in Baltimore. And I was like, oh,
that's
man.
funny. That's funny.
Back when I was a better neighbor and used to organize a lot of cleanups, I'd always find like Burger King and like Chick-fil-A cups. I'm like, we don't even have these restaurants.
Right.
How's this stuff,
here, right?
how's this stuff ending up here? It's not like I see like the Sobo Cafe bag on the ground. It's always like a Burger King or like a Hardee's bag on the ground.
Chris, you got me thinking there. You just mentioned Charleston, and that's actually a question I was going to ask you about later. It's obviously a culinary mecca for the restaurant business and just foodies in general. But what do we need to do to get there? Do you think it's even a possibility here in Baltimore to get there to even a close to that degree?
I think we have the talent here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think if you look independently, if we were in Charleston and we were visiting Baltimore for the food scene, if we were doing it vice versa, I think you would say the same thing about Baltimore. I mean, I think I could show you the same experience in Baltimore that you get in Charleston. You may not have as many of the award-winning chefs here at this point that they may have. I mean, I think they have a few James Beard award winners. I don't think they have any Michelin stars there yet. I mean, you have all that stuff up here. I mean, pretty much. Maybe making it a little more attractive or maybe a little bit easier to open things up in Baltimore could draw additional talent. Maybe having like a few bigger names in the industry, because I think that's what's happened there, right? It's happened in Charleston, also happened in Nashville. You have a lot of people that are going to those cities that are incentivized to go to those cities, and then they open up their shops. I mean, I think there's a huge, before the pandemic, there were huge populations of people moving to Nashville. I think it was one of the fastest growing cities for millennials in the country, right? And with that, when you have that population going there, the talent also comes. So, maybe figuring out ways to draw that younger talent into the city, and then you get that innovation and that freshness that some of these other cities that are popping up get. But I think if you're just looking at Baltimore versus these other cities objectively, you do have, there are tons of amazing places that would stand up to those other cities.
Cool.
One of the things I like about Baltimore too is it's got a nice foundation of like foods it's been known for probably 100 years, where you take you take the crab cakes, you take the Chesapeake Bay seafood, you take the pit beef and the snowballs and things. It's a good foundation where you can the Greek diners, you kind of lead with that. And then you could add the talented chefs and stuff to really add to the dining scene. So I love that at least we do have an identity where you see some cities, I'm not going to mention names. It's like, what are you really known for? But then you bring in a lot of chefs and you develop a good dining scene. But
right, that's what they're known for. Right, it's not a particular necessarily cuisine. And I still think that when I go to other cities, even in New England, and I was just out on the West Coast too, like Baltimore holds its own when it comes to seafood. Like there are very few cities. I mean, I do think that Baltimore, the best, if not one of the best seafood scenes in the country, easily.
There's blue crabs pretty much everywhere from Texas to probably like Long Island, and we're the only ones that seem to know how to cook them right.
Exactly. And like back to what you were just saying about like snowballs. If you open a snowball stand, and because when you go to any other city too, snowballs aren't snowballs. They're not like, they call them something different, and they're also like a different thing, and they're definitely not as good. I think if you open a snowball stand somewhere like in Times Square or in Manhattan or somewhere like that, it would absolutely kill it, without a doubt. Like I would love to do that. Just try do a pop-up for a week and see what happens. It would be insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Well, since we talked about some of the Baltimore classics, what are some of like the true Baltimore dining institutions in your mind? Places that have been around forever and they deserve the praise and the success they've had.
Those are also kind of dying off now too. Yeah. Which is really sad. But I think you have your like prime ribs or Tio Pepe, some of your spots in Little Italy. Like I love La Scala. I think that's a great spot. But really when you're thinking of like Thames Street, Thames Street, however, Oyster House, but really a lot of those older places have, which is sad. And that might be just part of the way the restaurant industry works. They didn't change with the times. But there is something to say for going to like a really good steakhouse and getting like an amazing steak, like a martini or like a glass of red wine. And, there'll be new classics. They're popping up.
What's up is like you look at Federal Hill. It's like, are you a new resident or an old resident? Well, I've been here for like 20 years now. So I'm older than the teenagers telling me I didn't grow up here. And
I think the places that have survived now are, they made it through the toughest time.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing at this point, so they have it nailed down.
Yeah, hopefully it's kind of like the realtors that made it through the real estate crash of the mid-2000s. They're all killing it now. So hopefully it's the same way at the restaurants. If you're still here now, and as I walk around, it seems like places are packed right now. So.
Yeah, I think their place has been really busy. Now you're dealing with a lot more issues too. I mean, not just from not being able to open, but like supply chain issues, staffing issues, all that stuff down to, I mean, literally like restaurants that are trying to open can't get anything that they need. And it's just, you know, it puts them on a delay. So they had to pivot based on what the city was doing for the past year and a half. But now they're pivoting based on what they can get and what they can't get. You know, one day, even, you know, regular foods that you think would be easy to find. It's not necessarily a matter that the food isn't there or that you can't get it. I mean, that is also an issue, but getting it distributed to the restaurant. Like, is there someone who's able to get it on the truck? Is there a truck driver who's able to get it to the restaurants? Like all of these, everyone in the chain, there are issues. So it just makes it all a lot more challenging. I feel like people started going out again and they thought that the restaurants were open. So they're like, oh, I can go back to being like rude and you know, yell at the host and the server. And if something didn't go wrong, you know, I can be mad about it. Or if they didn't have something on the menu, let me get upset. No, I mean, just like be nice to the host, be nice to the server. If they're out of something, just order something else because you're at a restaurant. Like, you know, tip them 20% because they're working twice as many tables as they were before, and just be a little bit more patient. I mean, eventually things will get back to normal.
Yeah, one of my favorite things of the past year and a half was talking to some of the restaurant owners who just talked about how the locals through carry out drinks just kept them afloat. You know, they weren't making money, but they weren't losing money, which really helped them survive this period of time, which credit to the great business owners here, but also credit to so many of the South Baltimore residents that kind of stepped up extra to make sure that, I don't know if we're going to call it the end of this yet, but I mean, we kind of have more restaurants now than when we started with. So that's just,
I think we do.
That is amazing. And I mean, and we've so many new innovations, right? The parklets, the outdoor dining that people have added. And let's be honest, the walk around cocktails. I mean, I'm not saying we need to be New Orleans or Key West here, Duval Street or, you know, Canal Street, but I'm just saying that was pretty amazing. I mean, it was awesome to go grab a hot toddy and go check out Christmas lights, you know, around the neighborhood, you know, last year and the year before. So.
I hope we keep that. I hope we keep the parklets and the outdoor seating. I mean, I don't know how, I mean, I think different restaurants feel differently about it depending on where they are and what the location is and how it impacts their business. But if you go to any other city that has, you know, any other historic city, again, we'll go back to Charleston, you know, that type of like Savannah, all those places, you go to the historic area and you're not driving on the streets. You can have tables and people are walking around and doing all that stuff. I would love to see us keep that. And it's also another thing that Baltimore, I think, actually lacks a little bit, were, at least before the pandemic, the outdoor spaces and roof decks. You know, if you go to New York and DC and other, I guess, bigger cities, they all have a lot more outdoor space. And these rooftop bars and these rooftop restaurants that are all like really, really cool. And you started to see that a little bit more, but still not to the extent that you would in DC or Philly or New York. Like Watershed, I think, is a great addition. It's a great, I mean, I think that changes the dining scene in South Baltimore for sure, and is an incentivizer for other restaurants who want to come to that area because it's such a draw, and just the overflow of that. And just, I think the exposure that gets, you know, the whole cross street area. If you're just coming there for Watershed, then you're going to look around and you're going to say, oh, wow, all these other restaurants are here. And I think these other restaurants that are opening up will also definitely be a draw. I mean, I think, like, I'll go back to No Way Rosé. I think that's going to be a great spot that people are going to want to come down to just to see. I mean, just for that mural outside at this point.
Get in your Instagram shots, and I guess TikTok if you're under the age of 23, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, if anybody follows me on social media or any of my kind of projects outside of southbeamer.com, you'll know I'm a big pizza enthusiast. So while we got one of the biggest eaters and promoters of food in Baltimore, I got to get in a question. Chris, what are some of your favorite slices around town?
My favorite slices around town are, I love the crab pie at Matthews.
Of course.
I think that's an iconic slice. I like Joe Benny's, which I guess isn't really like a slice per se. It's a little bit of a different style. Detroit style at Underground is really good. And then Pizza de Joey over here. I made my way around the city.
You hit Detroit style, Sicilian style, whatever Matthews is, and you hit New York style. So I like the
Matthews style. It's just Matthews.
I've actually tried to explain. Matthews is somewhere in between like a Boston bar pie and a Detroit style. If they had a baby, that's kind of where Matthews ends up.
Yeah, because it has like that medium thick like pizza crust that's like buttery and crispy. Almost like I mean, this is going to sound bad because it's really not that, but it reminds me almost like of like the personal pan pizzas that I would get.
That's exactly what it is.
But much elevated.
Right.
Because I always say Barfly is like a fancier Pizza Hut, and then Matthews is kind of like that, but then the cheese goes to the crust line and gets you kind of that Detroit style burnt edges. But that's there's always gonna be new pizza places. So we'll certainly never be New York City or the Jersey Shore when it comes to pizza. But I think we do have some good options if you're gonna kind of open your mind and not just have to eat one style of pizza.
I think Underground, I've seen on their Instagram, is going to play around with different types, with different styles. So you may see a thinner slice coming from them at some point.
Yeah. When I was talking to Evan, he was telling me they have the old coal-fired oven from when Joe Squared was in there. So, I mean, it's definitely like that's the Lamborghini for pizza makers if you get to play around with a coal-fired oven. So I can't wait to see what he comes up with that.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. He does a lot of cool. I mean, I think the pizza's really good. I mean, just the regular one, but when he does all the different flavors and the different sauces, and I think he has like a honey hot sauce that he drizzles on top. Like he's a good example of pivoting during the pandemic as well. Because he went into the business, figured it out. Now he's killing it.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's obviously good on social media too.
Yeah, he's really
one
good.
of my favorite pizzas anywhere, if you can find it anymore. Used to get it at Chaz when it was here in town. Was a coal-fired. It was the nice thin crust, small pizza, but it was prosciutto and some arugula on top. Oh, that to me, that's like one of the top things ever. It's amazing.
I think Nate's hoping I take notes for the next time he comes over.
Yeah.
Pizza night, Kev. Come on.
So if you like, I'll go back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier about the new restaurants, the Heritage Smokehouse. He had this. It was aged, smoked, cured for 2 years, or what? Something was. It was like a very long time that he made this ham, and it was amazing. So he has a lot of that. I think he has a lot of that stuff up there. I was working on that. So if you like that type of cured smoked stuff, definitely check that out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think some of the biggest things sold during the pandemic were Pelotons, smokers, and pizza ovens. So certainly, I think a lot of people have a
full
good
circle. Just two
out of three.
Yeah, we have all three actually, but I don't use the Peloton. But no, I've got quite a new appreciation for smoked food. I kind of had like a gift certificate to somewhere, and I was like, I guess I'll get a smoker. And the first time I smoked it, I'm like, I am a smoking guy now. I am all in. This stuff is so good.
Nice.
There's an art to that. I mean, it's really
I'll never be the guy that gets up at 4 a.m. to start the brisket, but
or stay up all night. Like wake up every 2 hours to do whatever. It's a lot of you really have to be devoted to.
Yeah, I will never be the guy to do that, but I will definitely be the guy that tells you it's awesome and thank you for doing that.
Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I'm glad you woke up every other hour.
Yes. Little dry, Nate. Little dry, maybe.
Awesome. So, Chris, thank you again so much for being here. This is a great conversation, and really love this, and this is definitely one of the most fun conversations we've had on the show. Got to ask you, this weekend is coming up. It's Friday here. We're recording this. You got anything you're looking forward to? Any food you're looking forward to? Any spots around town you're looking forard to?
Actually, leaving in half an hour to go to New York, so there's a lot of food.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's on my agenda for this weekend. Not in Baltimore, but
well, go get some of those New York slices, man. Those are the best. Even at 2 or 3 a.m., that's the best. Yeah.
I'll put in my pizza order when we sign off. Right.
Let me know. I'll bring it back.
Very cool.
Thank
you so much. Take care.
See ya.
This week in South Baltimore. Sobo Hun. Brought to you by SouthBmore.com.
I hear you talking about my city, but I don't care. I'm repping Baltimore City with my fist in the air. I hear you talk about Baltimore. It's the city I adore. Be a Baltimore rich to be a Baltimore poor. It's the city always searching, never finding a cure. Baby, nothing can replace my Baltimore.